Okay, so what we're talking about are frequency tables and the frequency of things. So that's our first fill in the blank down in the notes there. The frequency, so I'm going to write that in here. Frequency, F-R-E-Q-U-E-N-C-Y, of a data value is the, and here it is. It's the number of times that it occurs. Excuse me? So the number of time it occurs. Like, what is the frequency? How frequently do you go to work out? How frequently do you use the restroom? How frequently do you even come to school? Okay, so a frequency is the number of times it occurs, usually within a certain given interval or time span, if it was time. Now, the next part here is a frequency table. That's what we'll be learning to make today. So frequency, if you can't see that, it's spelled the exact same way. Frequency table shows the frequency of each data value. So in a table, you can look and see exactly how many times something occurs. If the data is divided into intervals, the table shows the frequency of each interval. So that's what I just said. Here's what you would be given, and here's the steps to creating a frequency table. This example says here, the number of students enrolled in Western civilization classes at a university are given below. So here's the number of students enrolled in Western civilization classes. This probably tells me that one class has 12 students, one class has 22 students, one class has 18 students, and so on, okay? Use the data to make a frequency table with intervals. So that's what we'll be doing. Today I won't be talking as much about the intervals, but I will be talking about how to put the data in. Another video and another lesson will show you how to create the most appropriate intervals. So here, step one is you're going to identify, ready, the least and greatest numbers or values. So the least and the greatest values. In our data set here, it looks to me like the least value that I have when I look across, when I get to this 9, I notice that's my smallest number on the list. So my least value is a 9. Also, when I look at the same set of data, I notice my greatest value is this 32. The reason I want to find the least and the greatest is because I want to see what is the range of numbers that I need to put into a table. Keep that set of information in your mind, okay? And you have yours on paper. Here, we're going to use that information, those numbers, and we're going to divide the data into equal intervals. So that fill in the blank is the word equal. For this data set, we're going to use equal intervals of 10. What that means, it's going to run from 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40. That means in groups of 10s. By 10s are our intervals. Again, I'm not going to talk about how to choose the best interval in this video, but we will talk about how to create the chart, the table. So step 3, step 3 is you're going to record the intervals in the first column of the table. This is the first column of the table. The intervals are shown in groups of 10 with the heading, the number enrolled, the number of students per class is what that means. So these are our intervals spread out in 10s. Now, the number of data in each interval and list the count in the last column, what you're going to do, the fill-in for there is count. You're going to count the number of data values in each interval. So from 1 to 10, you count how many numbers fall between 1 and 10. Well, remember we had that number 9? that was the only number that fell between 1 and 10, so we write 1. There was only one number that fell within this interval. So go back to your data set and look through the numbers 11 through 20. 11 through 20, I would look here and say, well, 12 is between 11 and 20. 18 is between 11 and 20. 19 is? 14 is?
That's it.
And that looks like it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers that fall between 19 and 20. So that's why there's a 4 here in this column. 4 numbers fall in this range or interval.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So now for 21 to 30, look at the data set. How many numbers fall between 21 to 30? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Correct. And so for 31 to 40, how many numbers were in that interval? 2. That is how you record the numbers into the frequency column. The first column is the interval that's been created. The second column actually is how many numbers fall within that interval. Part 3 right here, give the table a title. This is very important because every table, chart, graph should have a title. So the title is here, Enrollment in Western Civilization Classes, my intervals for the number of students enrolled here, and then the frequency. These two are my headings. So every frequency table should have the left-hand column of intervals, a title, some headings, and the number of times it occurs, which is what's called frequency. Okay? So let's do an example to see if we understand. I'm going to switch to green. So here it says the number of days of Maria's last 15 vacations are listed below. So these are her last 15 vacations and how long for each time she was on vacation. For an example, 4 days, 8 days, 6 days, and so on. Use the data to make a frequency table with intervals. As I mentioned, I will be giving you the intervals today, but you'll learn in other videos or a future time how to best select the intervals for the information you're given. So step 1, if you remember, is we're going to identify the least and the greatest values.
4.
So what is the least value on here?
4.
4, good job. And what is the greatest value?
15.
15. So I know I have to come up with what would make sense between 4 and 15. Looking at my numbers, I don't really want to list 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to give you the intervals today. For this data set, we're going to use an interval of 3. So it'd be like 4, 5, and 6. The way you would write that is say 4 through 6 would be an interval, as we'll see on the next page. So here, these are intervals of 3. Numbers between 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 12, and 13 to 15. We'll be recording the frequency of those in the data set we were just given with the title on here, number of vacation days. Very important to have the title, the heading, and the frequency. So now help me out. How many times is it Maria? How many times did Maria have a vacation that lasted between 4 to 6 days? Well, I have a 1, 4, 6, 5, 4, 6, and that's all that falls between the 4 to 6 range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different times. So my frequency here would be 5. 5 times Maria went on vacation that lasted from 4 to 6 days. So help me out now. From 7 to 9, how many vacations did Maria take that lasted between 7 and 9 days long?
6, 7,
So I'll count them between between 7 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Only between the numbers 7 and 9. So I'm counting 4. So she had 4 vacations that lasted 7 to 9 days long. So help me out with the last two, from 10 to 12.
Nope.
How many from 10 to 12? I'm going to look at my data set and I'm going to say, okay, I have 10, 12, 10, 12. That's all of them, 4 of them. And then the remaining 13 through 15 had how many?
1, 2,
2. So this, I read this as, if I asked a question to say, well, how many vacations did Maria take that lasted between 10 and 12 days long? 4 different vacations she went on that were between 10 and 12 days long. Okay? So that is how to create frequency table, first, what is frequency, how to create a frequency table, and using intervals in there, okay? You have a paper that goes along with this. There's practice on the back. 4 different questions that you can practice on. Also, if you're watching by video, the worksheet should be attached for you to download and complete at home.